It says starting. Oh, okay, it's live. Okay. Welcome everybody to the what are we gonna call this?
Uh,
Daily
we
wall
we had we
no.
had a name for it. It was like
Wall
wall
crawler
crawler,
cast.
wall crawler cast. Yeah,
Wall crawler cast. There we go.
wall crawler
Okay.
cast.
Let's try it
Yeah,
again.
let's
Okay.
try it.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Wall Crawler cast. Here we are going to talk about all things Spider-Man, from the movies to comics and other things. Um,
Everything.
with me here is Noah, who's
Hey,
at the Star Warrior on Instagram, and I am Wallcrawler Facts and Daily Wallcrawlers, and also SW Fact on Instagram. Um, yeah, I have too many accounts. Um, so um, I'm James, and I've been a Spider-Man fan for as long as I can remember. My dad got me into the comics like when I was 10, but even before that, I was watching the TV shows, watching the movies, the Raimi trilogy, all growing up, and so I pretty much grew up with the character. My dad collected comics a lot when he was in college and stuff, so he was always into the character. So he basically brought me up, raising me to be a Spider-Man fan from birth. So, yeah, that's how I got into the character. How about you know?
yeah. So I was always kind of aware of Spider-Man, but I never really got into him as much as I am now. And that still doesn't compare to James at all. But I had seen like the first. I think I had seen the first two. I don't know if I had seen the third one yet. But I'd seen the first two original Spider-Man from the Raimi trilogy before I met James, and then when I met him, he's a big Spider-Man fan, so he got me introduced into all the other stuff, and yeah, like I'm no Spider-Man expert. I really haven't read that many comics, but he's introduced me to it, and it's really cool.
Yeah, I've gotten him to read a few. One reason we're doing this is so that it's just an excuse for me to get him to do more Spider-Man stuff. Honestly,
Yeah,
um, like I got you to read Amazing Spider-Man 801, Spectacular Spider-Man 310, and uh, you read some of Spider-Man Blue. You didn't finish it though.
yeah. I
Um,
need to finish
what was the other one? It was what was it? It was no, it was Amazing Spider-Man the annual from this year. Well, okay, Marvel's weird. They went with two annuals this year. Like they made one. It was like issue 40, annual 42. It had like a plot with Spider-Man and Betty Brant like stopping a bomb or something. And then later in the year, last year, it's like Marvel was just pretending that we forgot they released an annual this year because annuals come out once a year. But
Hence the name.
they, yeah, hence the name, and they released another one. So it's like Marvel was like, oh no, they won't remember that we released an annual earlier this year because we just rebooted the numbering, so we have to do a new annual. So that's the one I got you to read, and it was about Spider-Man. It like took place during the DeFalco run, which was during the '80s when Spider-Man first got the symbiote. So, what did you think of that?
Yeah, that was cool. I really liked the visuals. Can you say visuals for a comic? I guess you can. Um, the art
Yeah,
style. It was a really fun read. I've always found Venom to be kind of interesting.
McFarlane did a good job designing him. Yeah,
Hmm.
probably the most interesting part of his character, honestly.
Yeah. I still haven't seen the movie yet.
Yeah, me neither. Maybe we could do a review on it or
Yeah,
something.
maybe we could do a
Um,
review in the future for
yeah.
sure.
So you haven't delved into much of the Spider-Man character, just mainly the movies, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I watched Spectacular Spider-Man with him, the TV show. That was really good. So I've seen all the Spider-Man movies.
Have you
Right.
seen the the TV movies from the 70s?
No, I haven't actually.
Me neither.
I've seen like some like live action Japanese stuff. I see that a lot, but I haven't like watched any of it actually.
Yeah, me too. I see clips of it. So
It
I've seen
looks
some clips, but I
better.
haven't actually like seen an episode of it. It seems too uh what's the word? Primitive. It seems too primitive to watch. Just like the 70s TV shows. I might watch it just to laugh, but I'm not gonna I probably won't enjoy it like legitimately.
It doesn't look like a show that you can get emotionally invested in.
No. Even
Unless
Stan Lee back in the 70s, he was like, this was not a very good story.
I can just picture him saying that in his voice.
Yeah. So basically, I have done everything you could possibly do when it comes to Spider-Man material. I've watched the movies, of course. I grew up with the Raimi trilogy. I grew up with Spectacular Spider-Man. I grew up with the 90s show. I What else did I grow up on? I grew up playing with the toys from the Raimi films. I grew up with playing with the 90s figures, the Toy Biz figures that Avi Arad so desperately loves. um, he loves his money and he loves his toys and he loves his Venom.
Oh
So
yeah.
much so that he put Venom in like the first season of Spider of that show, even though it didn't really make sense. And also, Hobgoblin was put in the show before Green Goblin because they were making a Hobgoblin toy, so they had to have it
Mm,
make sense because it was coming out at a certain time, and they're like, we can't postpone Hobgoblin after Green Goblin because the toy won't make any sense. Yeah, there were many toys made of that show. Like the
I'm
the
sure.
the concept for Spider Verse came from Avi Arad wanting all these different versions of Spider Mans. So there, like the last episode and or one of the last episodes in one of the later seasons, there was like a Secret Wars. No. It was like a Spider Verse event.
Huh.
It was basically like different Spider Man from different universes coming together to fight. Um, I don't remember who. I think it was Carnage. Um, Carnage like took over the world or something.
Yeah, and that's
Uh,
another character I don't know a lot about.
oh yeah, okay. I can give you some reading material on that.
Yeah, nice.
Um, yeah, there it was like an alternate dimension where Carnage took over the world,
Hmm.
him and Venom or something, and all the Spider people together fought him. So that was like the first ever Spider Verse. It was because of toys. So that there could be a Spider Man with armor, there could be a Spider Man with I don't even know. There's so many. I can't think of them. Um, like I have it in my head. Like there was an egotistical Spider-Man who was like a movie star. Yeah, it's like if Peter Parker
Was
never turned into a superhero. It's like
was Spider Cop a part of that?
no, I wish
No,
though. Spider Cop is
Spider Cop is
his
amazing.
alternate version
He
by
had me
far.
play the new PS4 game, so
Yeah,
about some Spider Cop.
Spider Cop is classic now. There's a, there's actually like a legitimate Spider Cop that there's been stories about. I'm glad that that was a thing in the game.
Yeah, great game by the way. If you haven't played it,
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I've played the video games, watched the shows. I grew up playing the Spider-Man 2 game, uh, the PS2, all the trilogy games, um, Spider-Man trilogy games. I played Friend or Foe a little bit. Um, what else did I grow up on? I had the Spider-Man Leapfrog book. I actually still
that's
have
right.
it.
Yeah, you should
Um,
do that.
yeah, it was narrated by Stan Lee. It was like how I started reading, honestly. It was like from the beginning, Spider-Man from the beginning, learning to read.
There we go.
Yeah. Uh, then okay, so I grew up with Spider-Man. I was always into him. I Like I had a couple of Spider-Man birthday parties, like the whole thing. And so I never really read comics growing up. I mean, I started reading them after my dad would like read comics to us. I was like, I should read comics too. This I like them. So he wouldn't actually really read me Spider-Man comics. He would read me like Ren and Stimpy comics, stuff like that. Just like goofy little cartoony kid
Yeah.
comics that he had. And so I was like, okay, I'll read what he has. And when he was in college, he in high school, he collected comics like the entire time. So for like 8 years or so, he collected comics, and so he has quite the collection. So I just started sifting through his library, and so I read the Clone Saga, read all kinds of Spider-Man stuff. I mainly stuck to Spider-Man, honestly. I read some other Captain America sometimes. I never really went outside of Spider-Man, and I never read DC. So uh, I still don't read DC. Not often. But so after I read through a bunch of his comics for a couple of years, I was like, okay, I have some like money from like mowing yards. So when I was like 12ish, maybe 13, I started like going on eBay and going to yard sales and going to flea markets, just like finding whatever comics I could. Um, Mainly, I would just go for Spider-Man stuff. Um, so I remember one time vividly. I was I was on eBay and I was doing this bidding war with a guy for this like lot of 20 comics, and they were all from like the 80s. Most of them were Spectacular Spider-Man, and so it was like it was like the last 10 minutes, and then you know how you just like bid, and then someone else can bid, and someone else can bid, and it was
Yeah.
like $40. I'm like, okay,
Oh,
this is a steal. And I just, as a naive 12-year-old kid, I just kept hitting the bid button. I was like,
oh
oh,
boy.
see, they'll give up. I'll just bid some
It's
more.
like Wreck-It Ralph
Guy,
too.
yeah, this guy wouldn't stop bidding with me. So it just kept jacking the price up and up and up and up. And eventually he gave up at like $120. And I was like, what did I just do? The sale ended. And I was like, oh my goodness, how am I going to explain this to my parents? I just spent $100 on comics when I only had like $50. So I got them when they came in. I was so excited though. Like, still, they're some of my favorites. They're from the '80s, around the DeFalco era, but it was spectacular. So it was like when Peter had the black costume. He was dating Felicia. It was really cool. Still, I still have a lot of nostalgia for those. I remember that in particular. Like I just like went outside and like sprinted outside screaming. I'm like, what have I done? I just spent $100 on comics. So uh, that's how I got into comics, was buying stuff on eBay mainly. And then eventually, after I stopped buying on eBay, I haven't done that in a while. I started going to my local comic shop. That's where I get most of my comics now. Um,
I'm jealous. Ours is like a fourth of the size yours is.
Yeah, it's really, they have lots of back issues. It's great. It's the
Mhm.
Deep Comics if anyone ever wants to go. Uh, Great place. The people that work there are really nice. They have lots of Spider-Man back issues, and they have like a little subscription box where I can come in and pick up the uh, comics when they come in. So yeah, and then I've gone to a few Comic Cons where comics are always cheap. Unless you go to the wrong vendor, then they're really expensive because like they try to fool people.
Yeah.
But sometimes you can find some really good deals, especially on the last day when they're like they don't want to pack up all the stuff again and just like take it back. They want to sell everything because they bring everything there for the intent of selling it. So I got some pretty good deals doing that. Like it was at my local Comic Con that I got like 20 issues of Amazing Spider-Man, all for like $2, and they were all from like the 200s. So they weren't like if you went on eBay and like tried to find any of those, they're all like $5 or $10 each. So I was like, yes, that was probably one of my best finds. Yeah, it was like early 200s. It was great. I wish I had more money because he had a lot more. Oh well.
Yeah.
Maybe
So
that was earlier this year, so it's like coming up in March. So I might be able to snag some more if he's still there. I hope he is.
yeah.
Or,
So we were talking about how we forgot to send each other Christmas gifts. The one I got you is actually Spider-Man themed. Um, I'm trying to figure out how to talk about it without spoiling what it is. It's like
okay.
partially something you have, but it comes with something you don't have.
Ooh, I'm
So
interested.
why it's kind of like a special edition of what something you already have, I guess. I thought it was pretty cool. I
Hmm.
didn't know it existed.
Hmm. Is it is it a special edition of Spider-Man 1?
It's not Spider-Man 1.
Okay, good, because I already have that. I was just checking. I have that one.
And it's not the kind of special edition you're probably thinking of.
Okay. I think I know, but I'm not gonna say.
Okay. I don't think you know because I had no idea it existed. And they've made it for like Home Alone and Alien and I think maybe even Star Wars. Like I had no idea this was a thing.
Oh,
So
then I don't know what you're talking about. I was thinking maybe like Spider-Man 2.1, which is like a
no,
alternate.
no, no.
It's like an extended cut of Spider-Man 2. They also made one for they made one for all of them. They made Spider-Man
Oh,
1.1,
really?
Spider-Man 2.1, Spider-Man 3.1. Yeah. Spider-Man 3.1 actually came out like last year.
Oh, okay. So I've seen the special editions for the first two, but I didn't know about the third one. Or
Yeah, it
maybe,
came out
maybe no,
really
I
recently.
did know about it, but I forgot about it. I totally forgot. So I'm gonna have to
Yeah, they
check that
have
out.
like a few extra shots of the symbiote. It's pretty cool.
Mm, yeah.
One of the shots they used was actually unfinished. Like Spider-Man, I think it was Spider-Man swinging away from the Daily Bugle, and like the
Mm.
background wasn't finished or something. It's kind of weird. It looked cool though, nevertheless.
No.
Okay. Well, yeah, I've pretty much done everything Spider-Man. I've read too many comics to count. I've watched all the movies too many times to count. Watched Spectacular Spider-Man too many times to count. Uh, I watched the '90s show a bunch. Uh, Played a lot of video games of the Spider-Man trilogy, Friend or Foe a little bit, Marvel's Spider-Man on PS4. I've played I've played through that twice. It's really good. I played Web of Shadows on the Nintendo DS, and let me tell you, that is the hardest game you'll ever play. It is so hard. I maybe made it halfway through, and I it was like a boss fight, and I couldn't get past it. It was
Oh,
ridiculous. I don't even know if it's like this. Okay, the premise is like the symbiotes take over the city, and like everything is like symbiote. Like everyone's a symbiote. Symbiote stuff is all over the ground. So basically, it's just this boss that was a random boss that had a symbiote on him, and it was just impossible to beat him. I don't know how to describe it. Basically, like you're going through the city trying to get to Venom, who's the final boss or whatever. I think
okay.
I don't even know because I didn't beat the game. Uh, it's like you're going through the city fighting all these symbiote infected people, and you're trying to get to Venom through the sewers, and I just couldn't beat one of the symbiote infected people. It was ridiculous. They had like the most ridiculous amount of health ever. I just couldn't beat it. It was too
Yeah.
tough.
Yeah.
Even my brother couldn't beat it. So I played that. I played Shattered Dimensions a little bit. My cousin had it, and I played that a lot when I went to his house. I don't think I ever beat it all the way though. I did play with all the different Spider-Mans, but I don't think I ever beat the whole story yet. Right now, I'm trying to collect all the games. I collected so far. I've gotten Friend or Foe back. I've gotten Ultimate Spider-Man. I didn't play that growing up. I also got Edge of Time, which I haven't started yet. I want to play it sometime soon, and I want to get Shattered Dimensions again so I can finish it. So I missed pretty much all the games in the Xbox 360, PS3 era. So I missed all the Amazing Spider-Man games, but Marvel Spider-Man made me want to get other games. So
Yeah. Yeah, like with Star Wars, which is what I primarily grew up with. I missed a lot of the video games that came out like before the Disney era, which is unfortunate because now it's just EA and they've only made like two games. Like I
yeah,
played the first two Force Unleashed games, and I played a little bit of like that Clone Wars lightsaber game, and of course like Lego Star Wars. But aside from that, that was
oh
pretty.
yeah, that's the greatest game of all
Like I
time.
never played the original Battlefront. I never played like what was it, Jedi Academy or Jedi Outcast, something like that. I never played any of that stuff, sadly.
Hmm. I played Lego Star Wars, and that's about it when it comes to Star Wars games. I can't really
Force,
think of anything else.
I kind of want to go back and get some of those older games. Well, you know what? I did play Star Wars Bounty Hunter because that came for free when we got the first EA Battlefront.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
I
I
didn't play
missed
all
out
the
on
way.
Battlefront. I only got Battlefront 2 because I got a PS4 right when Battlefront 2 was coming out. So like Battlefront was dying.
Yeah,
So
it's like five
I
dollars.
didn't.
Oh god.
Yeah, I got it really cheap, but no, actually I didn't because I bought it a few months before because I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna play this, and I never did. Then Battlefront came out and Battlefront 2 came out, and I just did that instead.
Yeah, but the campaign was pretty fun.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
pretty good.
I like that.
Kind of short, but what are you
Short,
gonna do?
good.
At least the DLC was extended it a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. What I would like is a Star Wars game like the Spider-Man PS4. Like that was like I'm not really a gamer, but to me, like from what I've experienced, that was like one of the best, if not the best, story like campaigns in a video game.
Yeah, I agree. I haven't
That was
really
fun.
played anything like it. I mean, I'm not much of a gamer, but
Yeah,
that was definitely the most um, impactful story in a video game I've ever played. And I've heard like gamers who play games all the time say the same thing. Like people who say they've never cried during a video game cried during
yeah,
that. So
yeah.
I mean, it's a kicker towards the end.
Hmm.
All right, so now that we've talked about like how much of the character we've experienced, let's talk about the what our favorite experiences are. So, give your top five Spidey, or just list your favorite Spider-Man adaptations. Well, just versions. It could be the comics or anything.
Yeah. Okay, so out of what I've read, for comics, I'm gonna have to go with Spider-Man Blue, and I haven't finished it, but I really, really like the style. I like how it's telling its story so far. It's really interesting. It's really sad. Uh, that would probably be it for comics, even though I haven't read that many so far. Movies, that is a tough one. I would say that objectively, I think Spider-Man 2 is the best Spider-Man movie. It's a great movie. But I think like Spider-Verse, which I just saw, and to me it's what I think is the second best movie. But it's really hard. I think that might be my favorite movie, Into the Spider-Verse. I really really love the art style. I love the characters and the story. I thought it was a really really fun movie. And then video games, obviously Spider-Man PS4. I haven't really played anything else, so
Yeah, kind of hard to compare it to anything else when you haven't done it. What about TV shows?
And yes, yeah, Spectacular Spider-Man because I haven't really seen anything else, but I'll take your word for it that it's up there, you know.
Oh yeah, it's the best. Well, I guess the '90s show kind of has a run for it,
Yeah.
but it's close. But Spectacular has better animation. Just
Mm.
the story's structured better, I think. It's
So
just Greg Weisman. You can't beat him.
yeah. So kind of like comparing Clone Wars and Rebels. Clone Wars had
Yeah,
better animation, but it got cut short.
yeah,
And then
exactly.
Rebels, its storyline was kind of all over the place, but still both are quality TV shows, in my
Yeah,
opinion. So
definitely.
yeah, I'll definitely
Um,
check out the '90s show sometime.
okay, so I'll name my favorites. My favorite adaptation of all time is Spectacular Spider-Man. That story is just phenomenal. The animation has never bothered me. I've heard some people complain about it, but to me, it's like I guess it's just because I grew up with it. I guess because it's always been natural to me. And I mean, if you read some comics, there's some much worse art styles than Spectacular. Let me tell
Oh
you.
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Just look at Sal Buscema's run on Spectacular in the '90s. You will want to vomit. It is so bad.
Dora
Oh my
LaRocca's.
goodness. It's it's like towards the end of the Clone Saga. Um, Spectacular Spider-Man. It's terrible. It's so bad. Oh man, I'm getting lightheaded just thinking about it. I'll send you some pics later. It's so
Okay.
bad.
I can't wait.
Okay, so yeah, Spectacular just like perfectly encapsulated who Peter Parker was as a high schooler. It's like I I can't say any bad things about it. It's literally perfect,
The theme
honestly.
song was so catchy. Oh my goodness.
Exactly. Yeah. Even the theme song's perfect.
After like two
Um,
episodes, like you said, like this theme song's really catchy. And like the first time I'm like, okay, and then the second time I'm like, holy crap, it is catchy. Like by
yeah,
the
it gets stuck in your
second
head.
episode, it's like in my head and it still hasn't gone out. But I
Yeah,
don't mind.
exactly. Even the '90s show has a really good theme song. But yeah, like character wise, story wise, visually wise, like it's perfect. Like
Hmm.
I keep like even now I'm trying to think of reasons why it's bad or like try to come up with like problems with it, and I just can't do it. Like I look at every like side character, I look at every storyline, every episode, like I can't find a weak point. It's ridiculous. Like it's the perfect representation of Spider-Man as a high schooler. Even though the characters aren't originally from high school, it's really cool to see because I've listened to Greg Weisman talk about who was the story editor and supervising producer on the show. He's talked about like why the characters are there, even though in the comics Spider-Man didn't meet Gwen, Mary Jane, or Harry Osborn until college. Why he put him in high school is because uh, at that point, the Raimi films, it was like the norm that they're there, and also
Hmm.
um, the way he implemented them in was he took the character they were in the comics in college, and then he's like, okay, how did they get to that point? So he's like, he imagined what they would have been like in high school, and then like
Okay.
dropped them in high school, and then had their character develop to the point to where they would be in college. It was so cool. It
Yeah.
was it was so cool. Like for example, Gwen Stacy. At the beginning of the show, she's this like nerdy, cool girl, and then throughout the show, like she loses her glasses, and then all of a sudden she's this like 10 out of 10 when she was like a 6 earlier. You're like, what the heck? It's just like him slowly developing the characters, and yeah, it was just like so much thought went into the story, and honestly, story is the main thing I look at when I look at a
Yeah.
Spider-Man story. Honestly, like adaptation, comic, I don't care what it is. Like it could look terrible, and I don't care as long as the story is intriguing. So Spectacular is definitely the best. Um, I would say the PS4 Spider-Man is probably second. Um, it was it blew me away the first time I played it. Like the entire time, I was just sucked in. I couldn't stop playing it. I I went like I played through it all night. Like I couldn't sleep. I was like, I gotta know what happens next. So, and then the ending just crushes you.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it was the perfect version of Peter in college, or as an adult. I would say the '90s show is the perfect Peter in college, but uh, they perfectly captured who Spider-Man is without beating you over the head with power and responsibility.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's possible to have Spider-Man's motivations be clear when you don't have to show Uncle Ben. Like it was perfect. Like I mean, even like Otto like slowly turning dark was really cool to watch. You're like, wait, is he gonna be a good guy in this?
I know.
And then you just slowly see him like turn and turn. It's really cool. Um, my only,
It,
I don't really even have any
because
complaints. Go ahead.
you don't have a what?
Complaints over it, really. Just some nitpicks, I guess. But
Yeah. Yeah, I was just saying like in Spider-Man 2, like Star trailers, I guess, but you probably already seen it if you're watching this podcast. And then he turns into Doc Ock and he's all mean and stuff. Like I kind of knew that was going to happen in the PS4 game, but I didn't want it to happen. I was like, maybe it won't. He's so likable.
yeah, exactly. It's just like it's the sympathetic villain in the probably the best way I've ever seen it done. Like
Mhm.
I haven't seen anything really make me feel for the villain like that. Maybe
Yeah, yeah,
Spider-Man 2, but and of course it's Doc Ock both times. Um, I felt bad for Sandman in Spider-Man 3, but
yeah.
not really. Not Green Goblin doesn't really make you feel bad for him in Spider-Man 1.
Did
I
you
guess
feel
there
bad
really aren't
for Eddie
many
Brock?
other sympathetic villains in Spider-Man adaptations, really, for the
Did you
most
feel
part.
bad for Eddie Brock in Spider-Man 3?
A
He
little
got called
bit,
Ash.
a little bit.
I
I mean,
wouldn't like to
still
be
a
called
jerk.
Ash.
He's still a jerk. But I mean, Spectacular had sympathetic villains, but
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I don't know, like in Amazing Spider-Man one, the Lizard, I never really felt connected to him. Amazing Spider-Man 2, like Electro, you're just like, what is this guy doing?
He's doing
The
dubstep.
Rhino is this idiot, bumbling idiot
Oh,
who has
okay.
a Russian accent.
Hmm.
Um, and then there's this bowler hat guy, and then Harry's like complaining about blood.
Goblin disease.
Goblin disease. Yeah. And then the Vulture wasn't really sympathetic, but could see where he's coming from, which is kind
Yeah,
of,
yeah.
yeah, it's kind of different. It's not, you don't feel bad for him, but you just like
Kind of
understand why he's
understand.
doing it.
Yeah, you understand them exactly.
Yeah, which is another good way to do a villain. Is like, oh, they did it with Killmonger too and Black Panther. They're
Hmm.
like,
Yeah,
oh
yeah,
dang, is this? Am I agreeing with the villain here? What's going on?
yeah.
But then they just take it to an extreme, and then you're like, okay, I no longer
Exactly.
agree.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That
Okay.
it's great when a villain, right, but they're just carrying it out in the worst way possible.
Yeah. So next, I get Spectacular Spider-Man, Spider-Man PS4, and then probably the Raimi trilogy or the '90s show. It's kind of a toss-up, I'd say. Um, okay, well, before I'm just talking about adaptations, but the 616 Spidey comic universe will always be number one, no matter what. Any version of Spider-Man for me. So just saying that. It's just like too much lore, too much good issues. The good issues completely outweigh the bad issues. There's so many good runs. It's just so cool to see all the different progressions of the character, even if retcons bring him down. You can still always go back to those stories that uh,
Yeah,
it's just there's so much there. It's like so much good stuff. Um, it's great. Like you you could read thousands of issues and not even be halfway done. It's like the amount of material there is just ridiculous. And yeah, There's definitely some stinkers, but most of them are great, or at least okay. But there's so many good issues. I could list them, but that would take forever. So I'll just talk about adaptations, I guess. Um, um, Next, I would put the Raimi trilogy, I guess. Uh, Nostalgia aside, they're still fantastic movies.
Yeah, I agree.
I love Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man 1, especially. Those two are just like up here when it comes to superhero movies, just in general.
People like they're cheesy. Well, of course they're cheesy. That doesn't make them bad.
Yeah, yeah.
Star Wars.
It's just Sam Raimi's tone of directing.
Yeah.
He likes to add some cheese in there.
It's good cheese.
Yeah. Like raindrops keep falling on my head is probably one of my favorite moments. It's just complete goofiness. I love it.
Like that song is so cheesy, but it's been in some great movies. Like what's that one? Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. It was in that movie, and that was so cheesy, but I mean that's still a great movie.
Yeah.
So cheese.
I love that whole sequence. Man, gosh, Spider-Man 2 is such a good movie. The more I think,
yeah, it is,
because it just adapts Spider-Man No More so well, and also just it throws Peter in the gutter. Like the first 30, Peter getting fired from every job. It's so bad for him. Visually, and it's just his birthday too. You gotta remember that it's his birthday. He gets fired from both of his jobs.
Oh man.
Oh man, it's so bad.
They do so many things visually that are just so ingenious that just like beat down on the poor guy.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Like when he's walking past that wall and it's just like posters and posters of Mary Jane. Like, oh,
he's just haunted by the girl of his dreams that got away. It's ridiculous. I love that movie. And then Doc Ock's a great villain.
Yeah.
But I love that movie mainly just for, even though Doc Ock's great, the reason I love it so much is just Peter Parker. And just like, it perfectly captured Spider-Man, for me at least.
Yeah.
Because Peter's life sucks. Whenever Spider-Man wins, Peter loses. Whenever Peter wins, Spider-Man loses. Yeah. And everybody loses. So Peter can never have his way. It's just like that's the main formula for Spider-Man story, really. And then it's great when Peter's worlds collide, as the makers of the Spider-Man game said many times, is the best way to make a Spider-Man story is to have Peter's world collide with Spider-Man. It's really like the only way that stakes really mean anything. And really, all the trilogy did that.
Yeah.
Even though they kind of repeated it with Mary Jane. Like the first and second one you bought it, but then the third one was like Mary Jane got kidnapped again. Yeah. The third one's a mixed bag, but it's still a great movie.
Yeah. It's kind of like Revenge of the Sith for me. Like overall, I love it. It's got some parts, but I mean, like I still love it.
Yeah. Definitely. It's got little shines of Spider-Man 2 in there.
Yeah.
It has some studio stuff that you're like, it does. Why is Venom in here?
Yeah.
Sandman was really good though in that movie.
Yeah.
If you cut out Venom, kept Eddie Brock, just didn't have him turn into Venom. Save that for the
Save
the church scene. This is like my dream Spider-Man 3. Have Spider-Man fight Sandman in the symbiote, and he fight Harry or whatever, and then Harry teams up with him in the end, fight Sandman, then they beat Sandman or whatever. And then it ends with Peter like hating his life or whatever. Somehow, I'm not sure how it would work, but he's on the church scene. He's like in the rain, and then he gets rid of the symbiote by the bell, and Eddie's there. Like Eddie in that movie is great until he turns into Venom. Like the whole build up towards Venom is great. Like it makes so much sense. Like Peter gets him fired. Peter takes his girl. Like he has every reason in the world to hate Peter Parker. It was very much well done. much more well done than it was in the comics. The comics, it was really flimsy why Venom hated Spider-Man.
Mm.
It was kind of just like it was really poorly done, honestly. And for Eddie to have such a loathful uh, hatred to Spider-Man really didn't make that much sense because he really only it was really Eddie's fault instead of Spider-Man's. But anyways, Spider-Man 3's Eddie is great until he turns into Venom. So I would have had Spider-Man 3 end with the shot of, he's on the ground, the symbiote's on him, and then he roars. And then roll credits. Spider-Man 4 is Venom.
That would be great.
Deserves his own movie.
Yeah, exactly. Because Spider-Man 3, like, one of the big problems was that it just kind of felt like overstuffed. Like, there was so much stuff happening.
Yeah.
And if it had more time to focus on, like, stuff with Sandman and his family, and then with Harry and Peter, that would have been great.
Yeah, definitely. It was just, that movie was too overstuffed. And, yeah, should have saved Venom for the end. Or not the end, just the next movie. So, next on my list after Spider is 90s Show. Honestly, it's like a perfect. Again, like the best adaptations are really flawless for the most part. For the most part, the 90s Show is really good story wise. It's like some of the episodes are pretty much straight up adaptations of some of the comics, like individual issues. Spectacular did the same thing. Like some of the issues were exactly like the comics. Like MJ being introduced in Spectacular is like an exact replica of issue 42 of Amazing Spider-Man. Like it's ridiculous. Yeah. And then
jackpot.
Yes, exactly. Yes. And I remember specifically a Mysterio episode. It was basically the origin of Mysterio. It was Amazing Spider-Man number 13 in the 90s Show. It was exactly like the comics. I'm sure there's some other examples. I just can't really remember them. There were a lot of great episodes. Unfortunately, both of my two favorite Spider-Man shows ended on cliffhangers. At least the 90s Show got a resolution because John Semper Jr. made a script for it. I just haven't read it yet. But Greg Weisman will never talk about Spectacular again until it's back on air.
Oh, man. Yeah.
So, which is not happening. So maybe in like a decade he'll open up.
Maybe.
But I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, I never thought in a million years Clone Wars could come back. So
yeah, true.
There's hope, I guess.
Yeah.
It is a little more flimsy with the rights, though, in terms of
Spectacular is just a little too much trouble to get it back on for Disney's time or Sony's. I mean, I'm sure Sony would love to have it again, but it's just like Disney wouldn't. Why would they go to Sony to make a Spider-Man thing when they can just make one themselves without having to pay Sony money? It's just
Spider-Man
thing
cartoons aren't as good.
Yeah, it's not gonna happen. Maybe we can get a comic, but then again, Marvel would have to buy the rights to that specific version of the character to do it. So literally any continuation of Spectacular involves Disney paying Sony, and I don't see that happening. So I guess we'll just have to leave it to our imaginations what happens next. But so yeah, back to the 90s Show. It was really good. The animation's a little dated, of course, because it was made in the 90s. It's a little cliche sometimes. The voice acting can get a little cheesy sometimes. But Christopher Daniel Barnes as Peter Parker is... Honestly, he's the voice I hear whenever I read comics. It's like... He's the perfect Peter. I mean, Josh Keaton and Chris Barnes are probably tied for best Spider-Man voice to me. Like,
yeah,
nothing beats them. Yuri Lowenthal's close, but those two are on like a whole nother level. That whole cast of the '90s show is great. Like, who knew that Ed Asner as J. Jonah Jameson would have been cool? He was Santa in the Elf
Oh,
movie.
really?
Yeah, imagine that voice as J. Jonah Jameson. It sounds really weird, but when you hear it, it's like, okay, that makes sense.
I can kind of see that.
Yeah, it's really good. I can't remember, but he was someone else in another. Oh, he was Uncle Ben in Spectacular Spider-Man.
Oh,
That's
oh, okay. Okay.
yeah, yeah. So he's been in a lot of Spider-Man cartoons.
Yeah, yeah.
So after the '90s show, I would probably put um, Ultimate Spider-Man, which is a comic. It's basically Brian Michael Bendis and Mark Bagley retelling Spider-Man in a modern storytelling sensibilities. Just basically modernizing it, putting Peter in a modern setting, um, updating things, just like putting a new spin on classic stories. It was really good. It was 160 issues, and the ending will break your heart, but it's worth reading. Uh, Definitely, especially just read it for Mark Bagley's art. Like, why wouldn't you? Even though he quits after like 111 issues, which is still a lot. Like him
Yeah.
and Bendis broke the record for the longest duo on a title.
Oh man.
They broke Stanley and I think it was Ramita, Stanley and John Romita's record of like
Impressive.
duo, same duo on the same book for the longest amount of time. And they were on that book for because like each comic comes out like once a month, so at 111 issues, like they were on that book together for like 11
Wow,
years.
that's crazy.
It was crazy. They went a long time. Bendis never left the book. It was all Bagley left. Bendis wrote the whole thing. But yeah, great storytelling there. Really cool reimagining of it.
Yeah,
Um,
I'll have to read it.
oh yeah. Another thing, yeah, we're gonna have Noah and another guy is gonna be joining the podcast. Mike, he couldn't make it today, but so we're just gonna
Yeah.
start it anyways. But I'm gonna get them to read some comics. I'm the grizzled veteran, so I'm gonna be teaching these youngsters how to about some Spider-Man. So I'm gonna we're gonna like read some issues and then review them and talk about them in upcoming things. So list your top 5 Spider-Man comics, Noah.
Well, I think I've only read like five, so
This should be easy.
maybe even less than five. I don't know. So I would say so far Spider-Man Blue, and then that Venom one, was that the or the symbiote one, was that the annual?
Yeah, the
I
second annual of
Okay.
last year. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd put that one at second, I think. I really enjoyed that one. And then I think what was the graphic novel you gave me that I read? I read some of it.
Ultimate? Ultimate
Ultimate, yeah.
Spider-Man? Yeah, you
I
started it.
Yeah, I put that at three. That was good. Um and
What
then
point did you get? Like what part?
I can't remember.
Were you still in the origin story?
I think he's already been bitten.
Okay. Did Uncle Ben die yet?
I don't think he has, no.
Okay, so you're still in the origin story. They
Okay.
expanded the origin story to 7 issues. So
Okay. Yeah. And then so next after that I would say the one where he ends up saving that dude, and who's like, isn't he going to a his like that one of his dying family members, like his mom or his dad?
oh yeah, Amazing Spider-Man 801.
Okay, that one, yeah.
Dan
And then
Slott's
the
final issue.
okay, and then after that, the fifth one will be the one where it's all these people talking about Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spectacular 310.
Yeah.
So my top five is, I don't know why it's my favorite, but it is. It was one of like the first Amazing Spider-Man issues I got that was under issue 100. So that probably has something to do with it. It's Amazing Spider-Man number 82. It's like Peter fighting Electro. Like Peter's, he's a college kid. He needs money, so he's like, why don't I go back into TV like I used to before Uncle Ben died? So he tries, and he gets foiled by Electro, and then they both fight, and it ends in a tie, and then they both like the last page is like them both walking off into the distance, like like completely worn out, and then Peter like crashes on his bed and like, why am I even Spider-Man? It's kind of depressing, but it's like
Yeah.
it's just like the perfect, like, if you want to get what Spider-Man is about, that's the issue you read. It's like Peter has this great thing coming towards him, and then somehow it just slips away from his fingers, and his life sucks. That's Spider-Man, and
Mm.
I don't know. Just, I mean, if Spider-Man was ever happily ever after, just, I don't know. That's how I emotionally connect to the character. It's
Yeah.
relatable. That's life. So next I have the Master. These are in no really order after number one because I haven't really thought about that much. But Amazing Spider-Man 31 to 33, which is duh. It's the Master Planner trilogy. When it's where the scene from Homecoming comes from, where he's trapped under the rubble. Musters up the strength to save Aunt May because she's about to die. She got a blood transfusion from Peter, and his radioactive blood is killing her. So he has to get this. I think it was iodine. Can't remember what chemical it was, but he had to get it to Aunt May, and so he has to lift up this rubble to get it to Aunt May. So it's like just showing Spider-Man's will. It's a really good issue. Um, then after that, these aren't really issues, but just like my favorite eras, I guess. The DeFalco era, which is Tom DeFalco and Ron Frenz when they were on Amazing Spider-Man in the 80s. Again, I have a lot of nostalgia for those because I had a bunch of those when I first started collecting. It's basically two. I don't know if like DeFalco and Friends went exactly these issues, but this is like the 40 issues that I just love that I've read. I mean, I'm sure I'd love the other ones. I just haven't read them all yet. I'm working on it. I'm currently trying to read through all of Amazing Spider-Man, and I'm on like issue 25. But so it's like issue 252 to 292. 252 is when he gets the symbiote first. Like he comes back from Secret Wars, and he has the symbiote.
Okay.
And then 290, it's like from that point until the point where he proposes to Mary Jane and she says yes. 292 is when she says yes. So that era right there is probably my favorite era. It's just, I don't know, I don't know what it is, but it just has like a certain tone and charm to it that I just love. Ron Frenz's art is phenomenal. I just love DeFalco's writing. Another run that I really enjoyed is Zdarsky's recent run on Spectacular Spider-Man. It started out really slow. It was kind of like a drag to read at first, but then after like 4 or 5 issues, you start to get like, okay, this is good. And then he just kept getting better and better every issue. He did some pretty weird stuff, but I really enjoyed it. Um, Definitely the best Spider-Man run since the next run I'm about to talk about, JMS, J. Michael Straczynski. So it's like the best run of Spider-Man in my opinion since like 2005. Like it's the best in the last like decade and a half, honestly.
Yeah.
Because like I don't know, I'm not a big fan of Spider-Man comics after One More Day. They're starting to get better. They're definitely starting to get better after Dan Slott left. But Um, so after Zdarsky's run in Spectacular, uh, J. Michael Straczynski and John Romita Jr.'s run on Amazing Spider-Man. That duo is just like, it's like Bendis and Bagley. It's like that duo, you can't beat it. It's like, okay, my three favorite duos: Bendis and Bagley, JMS and JR, and then Ron Friends and DeFalco. Like, and Stanley and Steve Ditko and Stanley and Romita. Those are my top five. Like, nothing beats those guys. Nothing. Like, you gotta read JMS, man. It is so good. It's like, you have to have a little bit of backstory because, like, Peter and MJ are split up, but it's just the way he brings them back together. It's just a slow build up, and it's just it's phenomenal. Okay, so that's about it. I'm not sure how long we'll be doing. Like, I don't know how long it'll be in between each episode, but we're still trying to figure things out.
Yeah, presumably next week if we can, I guess. But
yeah, maybe next week, maybe in a month. I'm not sure. Maybe it's monthly, maybe it's like bi-weekly. I don't know. It'll at least be monthly.
Yeah, definitely.
That's the plan.
Definitely.
So, if you enjoyed it, I'm looking forward to seeing you guys next time.
Yeah, and our Instagrams, I mean, they I guess we could put the links to them in the bio or whatever.
Yeah.
And I also have a YouTube channel, Fortner Films. I do some movie reviews on there as well as on Merry Band of Geeks. You could check those out. I'll review the Spider-Man movies at some point, so that's where that ties into this.
I look forward to that.
Yeah.
And this is my YouTube channel, so I don't really have anything else in terms of YouTube, but I do have Instagrams, which is probably why you're watching this. Wallcrawler Facts, where I post just like daily stuff about things people don't know about Spider-Man, which I have a lot of useless knowledge up here, so I try to spread it around. Then I have daily wall crawlers, which is just like me posting random stuff about Spider-Man, and people seem to like it. And SW Fact, which is me spreading useless knowledge about Star Wars. So, yeah, I'm hoping to have some cool guests on here sometime. Maybe some other fellow Instagrammers. And at some point, if we get big enough, maybe I could get a Spider-Man creator on here, like Greg Weisman. Yeah, I know Greg does. Greg does a bunch of podcasts, so I'd love to have him on. Like, you have no idea. Like, he is my idol when it comes to people who are storytellers. Like, no one's better than Greg Weisman.
Oh, he's great. Yeah. His work on Justice and the first season of Rebels and Spectacular Spider-Man, he's great. He's great.
Yeah, that's my goal, is to talk to Greg Weisman. That's my goal. Maybe it would be fun to talk to any comic creator. It'd just be like, I made this for the purpose of talking about Spider-Man, but it'd be fun to talk to some creators. But yeah. So,
all right.
yes.
Bye.